All right, everyone, let's get right into it. Today, we're tackling a subject that is, without a doubt, the bedrock of safety in any operating theater: sterilization. If you're a BOT student, mastering this isn't just about passing your exams. This is your day-to-day responsibility, and it's something that directly saves lives.
Yeah, that quote really says it all, doesn't it? This isn't just some abstract theory from a textbook. We're talking about real-world consequences. Every single instrument, every pack you handle, holds a patient's safety in the balance. The stakes couldn't be higher.
So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the essential definitions you just have to know. Then we'll get into Spaulding's classification, which is the why behind everything. We'll cover physical and chemical methods, talk about how we actually prove something is sterile, and then we'll wrap it all up by focusing on your crucial role in this entire process.
All right, first things first, we have to speak the same language. These core definitions are the foundation for everything else we're going to cover, and I can pretty much guarantee you'll see them on your exams.
Let's start with the big one, sterilization. You gotta look at the key words here: all microbial life and absolute state. This is totally black and white. There's no such thing as almost sterile or kinda sterile. An item is either 100% sterile or it isn't, and that includes killing the toughest things out there, bacterial spores.
Now, let's compare that to disinfection. Disinfection is great for wiping down a countertop or a bed rail. It gets rid of a lot of the harmful germs. But, and this is a huge but, notice that it does not guarantee killing bacterial spores, and that one single difference changes everything.
And rounding out our big three, we have antisepsis. Now, this one is for people. You can't sterilize a patient's skin, right? Of course not. But you can apply an antiseptic, like povidone iodine, right before the surgeon makes an incision. So the easy way to remember it is, sterilization and disinfection are for objects, antisepsis is for living tissue.
Okay, so if you only remember one thing from this first section, let it be this. The single most important dividing line between sterilization and disinfection is the ability to kill bacterial spores. Sterilization does, disinfection does not. That is the money answer for your exams and for safe practice every single day.
Okay, now we know what these processes are, but how do we decide which one to use for a specific instrument?
Do we sterilize a stethoscope? Do we just disinfect a scalpel?
No way. And the reason why is Dr. Earl Spaulding's brilliant classification system. It gives us the logic for every decision we make.
What's so great about this system is how simple and logical it is. It all comes down to risk. Just look at the table. If an item is critical, like a surgical instrument that's going to enter sterile body tissue, it must be sterilized, period. If it's semi-critical, meaning it touches mucous membranes like an endoscope does, then it needs high-level disinfection. And for non-critical stuff that only touches intact skin, like a blood pressure cuff, low-level disinfection is perfectly fine. See? The process always matches the risk.
And hey, here's a little trick to lock this in for your exams. Just remember, CSN goes with SHL. Critical gets sterilization, semi-critical gets high level, and non-critical gets low level. It's a simple little mnemonic that could easily save you a few marks. All right, let's switch gears and get into the how. How do we actually do this stuff? We'll start with the real workhorses of any sterile processing department: physical methods. We're talking about using things like heat and energy to get the job done.
The undisputed champion, the absolute gold standard in every hospital you'll ever work in, is the autoclave. It uses steam, but the secret ingredient is pressure. Why? Because putting that steam under pressure lets us get it to temperatures way, way above boiling. That's what kills everything. Most modern OTs use what's called a pre-vacuum autoclave, which actively sucks all the air out first, letting the steam penetrate way faster and making the whole cycle much more efficient.
Now, you absolutely have to know these numbers. Write them down, tattoo them on your brain, whatever you need to do. The classic standard cycle is 121 degrees Celsius at 15 psi of pressure for a minimum of 15 to 20 minutes. That's the tried and true standard.
But in a busy OT, sometimes you need a faster turnaround. That's where the flash cycle comes in, which is really common in those pre-vacuum autoclaves. For that, the standard is 134 degrees Celsius at double the pressure, 30 psi, for just 3 to 4 minutes. This speed is what helps keep the whole surgical schedule moving.
Okay, listen up, because this is a classic exam trap. They love to ask this. Boiling water at sea level only gets to 100 degrees Celsius, and while that kills a lot of germs, it does not kill bacterial spores. Therefore, boiling is a form of disinfection, not sterilization.
please do not fall for that question. So autoclaves are amazing, but what do you do with delicate instruments that would be completely destroyed by all that intense heat and steam? You know, things like expensive cameras, fiber optic scopes, certain plastics? Well, for those items, we have to turn to our low-temperature chemical methods.
This table gives you a great overview of the main players, and you'll notice there are trade-offs. You've got ethylene oxide, or ETO. It's an old-school classic, but look at that aeration time, 8 to 12 hours. That's because the gas is toxic and has to be aired out. Then you have hydrogen peroxide plasma, which is the modern fast choice. It gets the job done in less than 75 minutes, and there's no toxic junk left over. And while glutaraldehyde can sterilize, it takes a full 10-hour soak, which just isn't practical for most busy departments. So we've run the machine. The cyclone's finished, the lights are green, but how do we actually know that the instruments inside are sterile? I mean, you can't see microbes, right? We need proof, and that's where our sterilization indicators come in. We use this whole hierarchy of chemical indicators, and each one gives us a little more confidence. That Class 1 tape on the outside of a pack, all that tells you is that the pack went through the machine. A Class 2 Bowie-Dick test is more specific. It confirms the pre-vacuum cycle sucked all the air out like it was supposed to. But the real star of the show is the Class 5 indicator, which you put inside the pack. It reacts to all the critical variables, time, temperature, and steam, giving us the best chemical proof that conditions for sterilization were actually met where it matters most.
But for the absolute, final, undeniable gold standard of proof, we use biological indicators, or BIs. Think of it this way. Instead of just a chemical strip, we're actually sending in the microbial equivalent of the special forces. It's a little vial that's packed with millions of the toughest, most heat-resistant spores known to science. The logic is simple. If our sterilizer can kill these guys, it can kill anything.
And this slide right here, this is pure exam gold. You absolutely have to know this. You have to match the right spore to the right sterilization method. For the hot and wet methods like steam autoclaves and hydrogen peroxide plasma, we use Geobacillus stereothermophilus. For the dry and gassy methods like dry heat and ETO, we use Bacillus atrophaeus. If you run a cycle and these super tough spores are dead, you know for a fact that your load is sterile.
Okay, so we've covered the what, the why, and the how. But now we need to talk about the most important part of this entire equation, you. As an operation theater technician, this whole process, it's your responsibility. It's your domain.
You are the guardian of sterility, and it's a long chain of events, as you can see. It starts with proper decontamination, because you can't sterilize something that's dirty. Then you have to wash, dry, and inspect every single instrument. Then you pack it, load the sterilizer correctly, and run the right cycle. And you're still not done. Afterwards, you have to unload, check every single indicator, store the items properly, and document everything. Every single step is a link in that chain, and if one link breaks, the whole thing fails.
And that really brings us to our final thought for today. As you go from your classroom to a real operating theater, remember this isn't just a list of steps to memorize for a test. It is a sacred chain of trust that starts with you and ends with a patient on the table. So the question is, what's that one action, that one moment of focus that you will commit to every single day to make sure that chain is never, ever broken? Because that's